The moment I was reborn, back to the day she handed me the divorce papers, I swore I was done being her pathetic lapdog. In my past life, I took a knife for her and ended up crippled, only for her to stand over me and coldly say, "I didn't ask you to save me." This time, I signed the papers with a flourish, moved out of our marital penthouse, and got ready to start my life over. But then she pounded on my door in the middle of the night, eyes bloodshot, pinning me against the wall. "Who gave you permission to leave me?" At her company gala, she kissed me in front of everyone, trembling as she pulled out a stack of asset transfer deeds. I held my cigarette, letting out a cold laugh. "CEO Sterling, is the toy you got bored of suddenly that appealing?" When I opened my eyes, the first thing that hit me was the familiar stinging scent of antiseptic. It made my temples throb. Then I saw her, Victoria Sterling. She stood by my hospital bed, dressed in a sharp, tailored black suit that made her pale face look even colder. She was holding a sheet of paper, her fingertips pressing hard enough to turn her knuckles white. It was the divorce agreement. A buzzing sound filled my head, like a heavy bell had just been struck. I was back. I had been reborn. I was back 3 years in the past. Back to the day when, like a total idiot, I had taken a knife from a maniac for her and nearly lost the use of my leg. And while I lay half dead in the hospital, she came to demand a divorce. The memories from my past life rushed in like a tidal wave of blood. That rainy night, I had just finished an all-nighter on a film set as a background extra, dragging my exhausted body toward the bus stop to get back to our small rented apartment. At the alley entrance, I saw a man lunging at Victoria with a knife. I didn't think. I just threw myself at him. The blade went into my thigh and blood sprayed out like a busted fire hydrant. I lay on the ground, looking up at Victoria. There were specks of my blood on her face. For a split second, I saw panic in her eyes, but it vanished instantly. She called an ambulance, covered the medical bills, and then didn't show her face for days. The next time she appeared was right now, holding the divorce papers. In my last life, I was spineless. Looking at that icy, beautiful face, my heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. I still held on to a shred of hope, asking her in a raspy voice, "Vic, is it because my leg is ruined? Am I a burden to you now?" What you said back then, right? She had frowned slightly, as if disgusted by the smell of the hospital room, or maybe disgusted by me. Her tone was so flat, it held zero emotion. "Caleb, don't think you're that important. The marriage was forced by my family. The 3-year contract is up. It's time to end it." She paused, looked at my cast, and delivered the final blow. A sentence I still remembered word for word. "Also about that night, I didn't ask you to save me. I didn't ask you to save me." I lay in a hospital bed, and I couldn't help but laugh out loud. The movement pulled at my wound, sending a sharp, drilling pain through my leg. God, it hurt. But compared to the years that followed in my past life, lying at home like a useless person, watching her get more and more famous in the financial news, surrounded by young boy toys while I had to scrape pennies just to buy a pack of cigarettes, this physical pain was nothing. Victoria seemed confused by my laughter. Her frown deepened. "Caleb, what's so funny?" I stopped laughing and looked up at her. That face really was beautiful. Perfect bone structure, flawless skin, but completely devoid of humanity, like an exquisitely carved ice sculpture. In my past life, I was bewitched by that face. I spent 3 years as her doormat, only to end up useless and dying miserably on the street. I think it was raining when I died, too. Harder than the night, I took the knife. I looked away, breaking eye contact. My voice was rough but strangely calm. "Pen." Victoria clearly paused. She probably thought I would beg her with teary eyes like I did last time, or scream at her like a madman. But I didn't. I just stared at the ceiling and repeated, "I need a pen to sign." She was silent for a few seconds before pulling an expensive fountain pen from her suit pocket and handing it to me. I took it. My fingers brushed against hers, ice cold. Without hesitation, I flipped to the last page, found the signature line, and scrawled my name. Caleb Stone. The letters were a bit crooked since my leg pain was making my hand shake, but it looked a hell of a lot better than the ugly, trembling signature I had written in my past life. I handed the papers back to her. "Done." Victoria took the agreement, staring at the signature. Her expression was complicated for a split second before she reverted to her usual unshakable mask. Regarding the asset division, I'll have my lawyer. No need, I interrupted. I'm leaving with nothing. I don't want a cent of your money. I just want to cut ties with this woman and this messed up past as quickly as possible. Victoria looked at me, saying nothing. I closed my eyes. CEO Sterling, if there's nothing else, please leave. I am tired. I want to sleep. I heard the crisp sound of her heels clicking on the floor, getting further and further away. Finally, the soft click of the door closing. The world was quiet. Lying in that hospital bed, staring at the stark white ceiling, my chest felt empty. But strangely, it didn't hurt. Instead, I felt an indescribable lightness. It was like a mountain that had been crushing me for years had finally been kicked aside. Screw love. Screw Victoria Sterling. In this life, I was going to live for myself. I insisted on being discharged before my leg was fully healed. Victoria didn't show up again, only sending an assistant to ask perfunctorily if I needed help. I told the assistant to get lost. Using the meager savings I'd scraped together from my old acting gigs, I rented a studio apartment in a rundown building on the north side of the city. The environment couldn't compare to the downtown penthouse I used to share with Victoria, but I felt free. I didn't have to worry about dirtying expensive carpets. I didn't have to walk on eggshells, afraid of upsetting the great CEO, Sterling, and certainly didn't have to sit like a stone statue waiting for a wife who was never coming home. Every day, I hobbled around on my bad leg, cooked plain instant noodles, watched movies, played on my phone, and figured out what I was going to do once I healed up. I definitely couldn't go back to the entertainment industry like a fool. I had no connections, no background, and my looks were merely decent. Staying in Hollywood or the local scene would just mean dying as a background extra again. I needed a legit job that paid quickly. One afternoon, I was leaning back on a creaky secondhand sofa, scrolling through job listings on my phone when there was a knock at the door. It was urgent. I assumed it was the landlord rushing me for rent again. So I dragged my slippers over to open it. When the door swung open, I froze. Victoria stood there. She wasn't wearing a suit. She had on a beige trench coat. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulders, and her face had an unnatural flush, like she was drunk or had been running. Her eyes weren't their usual clear, cold selves. They were unfocused, staring straight at me. My first instinct was to slam the door, but she suddenly reached out and blocked it, her strength surprising me. "Caleb," she started, her voice raspy and breathless. I frowned. "CEO Sterling, can I help you? I already signed the papers. We're done." It was like she didn't hear me. She kept pushing against the door, her eyes scanning my face before dropping to my messy hair and old t-shirt, unkempt from days of recovering at home. "You're living in a place like this." Her tone held an emotion I couldn't quite place. Disdain? No, not quite. I laughed. "What's wrong with this place?" "I think it's great. At least there aren't so many rules." She pursed her lips, then suddenly said, "I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet." She repeated it, her gaze stubborn. I almost laughed out of anger. "Victoria, are you okay? What does your hunger have to do with me? Go find one of your Michelin star chefs to cook for you. Why come to me? All I have is instant noodles." She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at me. The dim hallway light hit the side of her face. The rims of her eyes looked red. We stood deadlocked in the doorway. After about a minute, I lost my patience and shoved the door to close it. She used that momentum to lunge forward, squeezing through the gap and nearly crashing into my chest. The scent of alcohol mixed with her usual cold perfume hit me. My leg wasn't fully healed, and the impact made me stumble back a couple of steps. She took the opportunity to force her way in and kick the door shut behind her. Slam! She had locked me and herself inside this rundown 200-foot studio. My temper flared instantly. "Victoria, what the hell do you want?" I growled, suppressing my rage. Was this woman sick? The divorce papers were signed. Why was she here looking for trouble? She ignored me, looking around my tiny apartment. It was simple. A bed, an old sofa, a small table, and my luggage piled in the corner. Definitely shabby. She walked to the small table, saw the half-eaten cup of noodles, and frowned immediately. You're eating this? What else? I snapped. CEO Sterling, if you came to tour the slums, have you seen enough? Can you leave now? She turned to face me, her chest rising and falling slightly. Come back with me, she said. I doubted my hearing. Go back where? Home. She looked into my eyes. Our home. I stared for a few seconds, and then I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. I laughed so hard my wound hurt. Home, Victoria. Which home? That massive house. You didn't spend a total of 1 month in over 3 years? You called a home. I stopped laughing and looked at her coldly. That's just one of your real estate assets. It has nothing to do with me anymore. The agreement is signed. We can void it, she said quickly, her tone almost pleading. I can tear up the papers. I narrowed my eyes, studying her. Something was wrong. This was way off script. In my past life, at this exact time, she couldn't wait to cut ties with me. How could she be here saying this? Void it? Tear it up? When had Victoria Sterling ever gone back on her word? Are you drunk? I asked. No, she denied. But the flesh on her face and the smell of alcohol said otherwise. Then what set you off? I sneered. What? Did you realize that without me as a shield, you can't handle your family pushing you to remarry? Or did you suddenly grow a conscience and feel bad for your unlucky ex-husband who took a knife for you? Her lips moved, but she didn't speak. Her expression was a complex mix I couldn't decipher. Pain, regret, struggle, and even a trace of something I'd never seen in her eyes, fragility. I didn't have the energy to figure out what game she was playing. I pointed at the door. Victoria, I don't care what kind of episode you're having today. Get out of my house now. She didn't move. Instead, she took a step toward me. Caleb. Her voice dropped low, carrying a strange tremor. Can we not divorce? My heart skipped a beat, but immediately a wave of anger washed over it. Not divorce? In my past life, when I begged like a dog for you not to leave, what were you doing? Now you come here telling me not to divorce? Are you playing me? No, I said, cutting the air with finality. No room for negotiation. Her eyes seemed to widen, and she stepped closer again. Instinctively, I backed up until the back of my knees hit the bed frame, and I fell onto the mattress. She leaned down, planting both hands on either side of me, trapping me between her body and the bed. The posture was incredibly oppressive. Her scent and the alcohol fumes enveloped me aggressively. Victoria, I panicked slightly, trying to push her away. But when my hands touched her shoulders, I felt her body trembling. Who gave you permission to leave me? She asked, enunciating every word, staring into my eyes. Her rims were red, looking like a rabbit cornered in a trap. But her gaze was fierce enough to bite. I was stunned. What kind of bandit logic was this? I left you. I laughed in disbelief. Victoria, you threw me away first. You came to the hospital to force me to sign. Do you have amnesia? Ignoring everything, she suddenly lowered her head and slammed her lips on mine. It wasn't a kiss, it was a bite. There was a viciousness to it, like punishment or maybe a release. My brain went blank with a buzz. I felt a stinging pain on my lips, followed by her cold, soft touch mixed with the faint taste of liquor. I snapped back to reality and used all my strength to shove her away. Caught off guard, she stumbled back a few steps, leaning against the wall, panting slightly. Her lips were red and swollen from the friction. Her eyes looked at me with a hazy yet stubborn intensity. I wiped my mouth hard with the back of my hand. It stung. Victoria, are you insane? She watched me wipe my mouth, her eyes darkening. Suddenly, she smiled a bleak, miserable smile. Yeah, I am insane. Without another word, she yanked the door open and stumbled out. She didn't close it. The draft from the hallway blew in, cold and biting. I sat on the bed, frozen for a long time, my lips still tingling from where she had bitten me. My mind was a chaotic mess. What the hell was that woman doing? I thought Victoria had just been drunk and acting out that night, that it was a one-time thing. I was wrong. It was just the beginning. 2 days later, I got a call for an interview at a small company I'd applied to. I cleaned myself up and hobbled over. The process was smooth. The company wasn't big and didn't have high demands for someone with a thin resume like mine. The manager hired me on the spot to start the following Monday as an operations assistant. It was grunt work with low pay, but it was legitimate income. My mood lifted slightly. It felt like my new life finally had some hope. Leaving the office, I planned to stop by a nearby market to buy some groceries and celebrate. Just as I reached the market entrance, I saw a familiar black Maybach parked on the curb. The license plate was even more familiar. My heart sank. The window rolled down, revealing Victoria's expressionless face. "Get in." She was concise. I pretended not to hear and kept walking toward the market. 2 steps later, my phone rang. Unknown number, but I had a hunch. I picked up, and sure enough, it was Victoria's cool voice. "Caleb, get in the car. We need to talk." "I have nothing to talk to you about." I moved to hang up. "It's about the company you just interviewed with," she said, her speed unhurried, but carrying a tone that brooked no argument. "Velocity Tech, right? The founder seems to have some minor tax issues. I happen to know Commissioner Reynolds at the IRS." I stopped dead in my tracks and spun around to look at the Maybach. The window was still down. She was holding her phone, watching me from a distance. The sunlight hitting her pale skin was blinding. How was this woman threatening me? I ground my teeth together and spoke into the phone. "Victoria, what do you mean?" "Get in." Same phrase. I stared at that car for a full 30 seconds. Finally, I caved. Not because I was a coward, but because I knew this woman too well. She did what she said. If I didn't get in, she really would destroy my job. For her, it was just a few words. For me, it was a lifeline I just grabbed hold of. Face dark, I walked over, pulled open the door, and sat in the passenger seat. The car was filled with her cold perfume. I buckled up and snapped. "If you have something to say, say it." Victoria didn't drive immediately. She turned her head, her gaze sweeping over me, finally landing on my washed-out jeans. "You wore that to an interview?" "None of your business," I said, ignoring her. "What do you want to talk about?" She was silent for a moment. "That night, I drank too much. Is CEO Sterling here to apologize?" "I am sorry." She actually said it, though her voice was quiet and lacked sincerity. I was surprised, but mostly wary. When things are abnormal, something is wrong. "Apology accepted," I said. "Can I go now?" "That job isn't right for you," she said suddenly. "I know what's right for me. Come to Sterling Corp," she said, looking at me. Her tone was bland, as if she were commenting on the weather. "Be my assistant. The salary is 5 times what that place offered." I froze. Offer me a high salary to work at her company? What was this angle? Slap me, then give me a cookie? Or did she just want to control me? I looked at her, trying to find a clue on her blank face. I failed. No, I rejected her cleanly. Why? Just because I don't want to. I unbuckled my seatbelt. "CEO Sterling, I accepted your apology. Don't worry about my job. If there's nothing else, I'm leaving." My hand touched the door handle when she spoke again, her voice a few degrees colder. "Caleb, do you hate me that much?" I paused. Hate. In my past life, it was a mix of love and hate that tortured me to death. But now I just felt tired. "Not really," I said. "Honestly, I just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore." I opened the door and got out without looking back. She didn't stop me this time. I walked quickly into the market, letting the noise of the crowd and the smell of raw fish wash over me. Finally, feeling like I could breathe. This woman was haunting me. I needed to secure this job, stabilize, and get as far away from her as possible. Monday, I reported to Velocity Tech on time. The manager was polite enough, assigned me a desk, and gave me some basic tasks. It was really just printing files, organizing data, fetching coffee, but I worked with enthusiasm. It was a job I got on my own without having to look at anyone's face for approval. During a lunch break, I was about to go grab fast food with some new colleagues when the receptionist called out that someone was looking for me. I was confused. I was new to the city. Aside from Victoria, I didn't know anyone. Had she come again? Frowning, I walked to the front desk only to find a stranger in a suit holding an exquisite bento box. "Mr. Stone, hello. I am CEO Sterling's assistant." "My name is Arthur," the man said politely. "This is lunch as ordered by CEO Sterling." I stared at him speechless. My colleague stared curiously. I felt embarrassed and lowered my voice. "I don't need it. Take it back." Arthur wore a standard smile. CEO Sterling said. Your leg has just healed and you need nutrition. The company cafeteria food might not suit your taste. So, you even investigated the quality of my company's cafeteria? I suppressed my anger. Thanks, CEO Sterling, for her kindness, but I'll pass. I'll eat with my colleagues. Arthur kept smiling but didn't budge, clearly not leaving until the mission was accomplished. We stood in a standoff at the front desk. My colleagues' gazes were getting more and more curious. I really didn't want to be the center of attention on my first day, so I caved and took the heavy food container. Fine, I took it. You can go. Arthur bowed slightly. Enjoy your meal, Mr. Stone. He turned and left, carrying a high-end box. I slunk back to my desk under the probing eyes of the office. Opening it, the food was exquisite. Balanced meat and vegetables still steaming, obviously from a high-end restaurant. A colleague leaned over, amazed. Wow, Caleb, nice. Which place is that from? Michelin star? Your friend is really generous. I forced the corners of my mouth up, but said nothing. Friend? It was my ex-wife who had just divorced me and was now inexplicably trying to suck up to me. The food tasted like wax. For the next few days, every noon, Arthur appeared on the dot, delivering a deluxe lunch without fail. I refused. I threatened, but he wouldn't leave until I accepted. The whole company knew that the new assistant, Caleb, had a super rich and caring friend. The manager began looking at me with newfound significance. I was going crazy. What the hell was Victoria trying to do? Beat me with a stick, then give me candy? And now she was force-feeding me sugar every day. The problem was this sugar was gritty. I couldn't swallow it. Friday night, I worked a little late. When I left, it was already dark. I dragged my aching leg toward the bus stop. Just as I got there, the haunting black Maybach pulled up in front of me again. Window down. Victoria in the driver's seat. Get in. I'll drive you. I looked at her, the frustration of the past few days boiling over. Victoria, are you ever going to stop? She didn't speak, just looked at me. The yellow street light softened the contours of her profile, but her eyes remained cold. Was lunch not to your liking? I laughed in anger. It has nothing to do with lunch. Victoria, we are divorced. Do you understand what divorce means? It means we go our separate ways. What are you doing acting like this every day? She was silent for a moment. I just want to treat you better. Treat me better? I sounded like I'd heard the world's biggest joke. CEO Sterling, I can't afford your kindness in my past life. I mean, back when I poured my heart out to you. Did you ever look at me? Now that we're divorced, you come running to play the good wife. Don't you think it's too late? My words might have been harsh. Her face paled, and her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Caleb, I know before. Stop. I interrupted. I've forgotten the past. You shouldn't bring it up either. Let's just pretend we never knew each other. Okay. The bus arrived. I didn't look at her again and got straight on. As I dropped my coins in, I looked out the window. The Maybach was still there, rooted to the spot. I felt annoyed, found a window seat, and watched the night's scenery rush backward. Victoria's behavior lately was too abnormal, completely unlike her. Could be she was reborn too? The thoughts startled me, but I immediately dismissed it. If she were reborn and knew what she did to me in the past life with her pride, she would have stayed far away or used money to pay me off even more thoroughly. She wouldn't be stalking me like this. That wasn't Victoria. So what was wrong with her? Did she realize my worth only after the divorce? I shook my head, tossing the ridiculous thought away. Don't flatter yourself, Caleb. Wasn't the lesson from the last life enough in this life? Stay away from her, keep your life, and live well. That's better than anything. The weekend was quiet. Victoria didn't appear. No food was sent. I relaxed a little, hoping she finally thought it through and stopped harassing me. Monday morning, the manager called me into his office, looking serious. Caleb, you've been here a week. How's it feel? My heart skipped a beat. Bad feeling. It's okay, sir. Getting used to it. The manager nodded, hesitated, and said, It's like this. The company isn't doing well recently. You might have heard business is shrinking, so corporate decided to downsize. I understood layoffs, and as the new guy with no background, I was the first to go. Sure enough, he continued, your performance was good. Very diligent. But sigh, the company has no choice. Your wages for this week will be cleared, plus a month's salary as severance. I was silent for a few seconds. Sudden, but not entirely unexpected. The place looked shaky. Okay, sir. I understand. I nodded expressionlessly. I'll pack my things. The manager seemed guilty and patted my shoulder. Caleb, you're young and capable. It won't be hard to find a good job. I smiled and said nothing, packing my meager personal items under the sympathetic or curious gazes of my colleagues. I walked out of the building holding a cardboard box. Standing on the busy street, the sun was blinding. Job gone. Even if it was grunt work, it was my only source of income. It would be a lie to say I wasn't depressed, but it didn't hurt that much. I guess after experiencing much worse luck in my past life, the setback was nothing. I took a deep breath, hugged the box, and walked slowly down the street, calculating my next move. Savings were low. I needed a new job fast. Just as I was thinking, that damned Maybach pulled up beside me, silently like a ghost. This time, I didn't wait for the window. I looked straight ahead and walked. The car crawled along beside me. Window down. Victoria's voice. Get in. I pretended not to hear. You were fired. I know. My step stopped. The anger flared up instantly. I spun around, marched to the car, and glared at her through the window. Victoria, did you do this? She just looked at me. Didn't admit it, didn't deny it. But that attitude was an admission. Are you sick in the head? I finally snapped, smashing the cardboard box onto the roof of her car with a heavy thud. Is it easy for me to find a job? Do you have to drive me to extinction? Are you happy seeing me miserable? She looked at me, her eyes deep, churning with emotions I couldn't read. I told you that job didn't suit you. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a stubbornness. I can judge what suits me. I don't need CEO Sterling to decide for me. I was shaking with rage. Do you think that without you, I deserve to starve on the street? Let me tell you, even if I have to beg for food, I won't have anything to do with you again. I turned and walked away fast, like I was fleeing a plague. Victoria's car didn't follow. I got to the bus stop and hopped on a random bus, not knowing where it was going. Sitting in the swaying carriage, watching the unfamiliar streets, my chest felt tight. This woman was her endgame. First the food, now sabotaging my job. Slap me, give me candy, then slap me harder. Was she playing with me like a cat with a mouse, toying with it before eating it? I leaned against the window, feeling a deep sense of powerlessness. Reborn once, I thought I could escape her and start a new life. Why was she still haunting me? Was I destined to never escape the nightmare of Victoria Sterling? Over the next few days, I frantically sent out resumes and interviewed, but my luck seemed to have run out. Silence or rejection after the interview. Seeing the money in my pocket dwindle, I started to panic. I couldn't be picky anymore. Worst case, manual labor or food delivery. I had to earn money. That afternoon, after another hopeless interview, I walked back in low spirits. Passing a small park, I saw a familiar figure on a bench. Boria. She wasn't in office wear. She wore a simple white sweater and jeans, her hair loosely tied back. She looked younger, more approachable than usual. She was looking down at her palms, her shadow stretched long by the setting sun, actually looking lonely. I instinctively wanted to detour, but she seemed to sense something. She looked up and our eyes met. I stopped. Too late to pretend I didn't see her. She looked at me, didn't speak, didn't move. I hesitated, then braced myself and walked over. I couldn't hide forever. What are you doing here? I asked, my tone unkind. She patted the seat beside her. Sit for a bit. I stood still. State your business. She didn't push it. Her gaze drifted to some kids skateboarding in the distance. Softly, she said, just passing by. Got tired, resting. I didn't believe a word. This area wasn't a business district. CEO, Sterling passing by here? Oh, what's the job hunt? She asked suddenly. I eyed her wearily. Thanks to you, not great. She was silent for a moment. My company has an opening. Marketing specialist. We're short-staffed. If you're interested. Not interested, I interrupted. She knew I'd say that. She turned to look at me. The sunset plated her cold, pale skin in warm gold, but her eyes remained clear. Caleb, do you have to be this stubborn? She asked. Is accepting my help that hard? It's not hard. I looked her in the eye. It's impossible. Why? Because I don't want any connection with you. I enunciated every syllable. Victoria, seeing you reminds me of the idiot I was running circles around you. It makes me sick. Do you understand? My words were like knives. Her face instantly turned pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her eyes dimmed like a candle blown out by the wind. My heart pricked inexplicably, but I quickly replaced the feeling with ruthlessness. Let hurt. A sharp pain is better than a dull ache. If I didn't make this absolute, she'd never give up. I turned to leave. Caleb, she called out suddenly, her voice light, carrying an imperceptible tremor. I stopped but didn't look back. If I said I regretted it, my body went rigid. Regret. Victoria Sterling felt regret. Did the sun rise in the west? I slowly turned around to look at her. She sat on the bench, looking up at me. Her eyes were red, shimmering with tears, a fragile look I had never seen before. My heart, uncontrolled, clenched tight. But the next second, the words she spoke in my past life rang clearly in my ear. I didn't ask you to save me. That inexplicable throb was instantly crushed by icy hatred. I looked at her and pulled a smile devoid of warmth. Victoria, there is no cure for regret in this world. Some things once done are done. Some people once missed are missed for a lifetime. I walked away with long strides, not stopping. She didn't call me back. At the park entrance, I couldn't help glancing back. She was still sitting on that bench. Her shadow stretched long and lonely. Like an abandoned kitten, the heavy feeling in my chest grew worse. I thought speaking so cruelly would make Victoria give up. I was wrong. Dead wrong. Instead of giving up, she doubled down. She began to infiltrate my life by any means necessary. First, the landlord suddenly showed up, apologizing profusely, saying his son was getting married and needed the apartment. He paid me double the penalty fee and told me to move out immediately. I took the money and searched the city under the blazing sun. Every place was either insanely expensive or worse than a dungeon. Just as I was about to sleep on the street, a broker coincidentally recommended a condo. Great location, new renovation, impossibly low rent. When I went to view it, I smelled that familiar faint cold perfume in the hallway. I laughed coldly and walked away. Work was even stranger. Every time I got an interview, the position would be canceled or I'd be told the role was filled upon arrival. Once I even saw Arthur, her assistant, walking out of a building where I had an interview. I stood on the busy street, watching him drive away, feeling like a mouse toyed with by a cat. Nowhere to run. She cut off all my retreats, forcing me into a corner. I moved into a pay-by-day motel. Damp room, peeling paint. Money flowed out like water. No job in sight. Anxiety and anger grew in my heart like weeds. That night, torrential rain pounded the windows. I lay on the bed, staring at a stubborn water stain on the ceiling, wondering if I really had to go work construction tomorrow. Knock, knock, knock. Heavy, born carrying an arrogance that refused rejection. My heart sank. I had a strong feeling. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Victoria. She was soaked, hair plastered to her pale cheeks, expensive trench coat dripping, a puddle forming at her feet. Her eyes were full of broken blood vessels. The look in them wasn't her usual coldness or brief fragility. It was a near-crazy obsession and desperation. Caleb, open the door. Her voice came through the wood, hoarse but commanding. I didn't move. I know you're in there. She started pounding. Open the door. The noise echoed in the quiet hallway. Someone next door shouted a curse. Gritting my teeth, I yanked the door open. Wind, rain, and cold air rushed in. Victoria, are you done yet? I roared. She looked at me, rain dripping from her chin. Suddenly, she smiled. On her pale face, it looked bizarre. Not done, she said. Caleb, never done. Not in this lifetime. She stepped forward, forcing her way into the room, and kicked the door shut, locking the storm outside. The cramped, damp room felt suffocating with her intrusion. You ruined my job. Left me homeless. I stared at her, chest heaving. What do you want now? To laugh at me? See how pathetic I am. I don't want to see you pathetic. She shook her head, stepping closer. Her wet clothes outlined her slender, tense frame. I want to see you back by my side. Dream on. Then don't blame me for forcing you. Her eyes went feral. She suddenly lunged, slamming me hard against the cold wall. My back screamed in pain. Before I could react, her lips, cold from the rain, yet burning with madness, blocked mine. The kiss held a destructive possessiveness. She pried my teeth open, entangled, sucked as if trying to swallow me whole. Her soaked body pressed tight against mine. The cold made me shiver, yet I could feel the searing heat under her skin. "Let go," I murmured. I turned my head. She wouldn't let up. Her wet hair rubbed against my neck. Her lips moved down my jaw, landing on my Adam's apple, biting down. Not too hard, but hard enough. A shiver shot through my whole body. "Victoria, you're crazy." My voice trembled. "I am crazy." She looked up. Her eyes were terrifyingly red, but bright as fire. "I've been crazy since the moment you signed those papers." She pinned me with one arm and used the other to pull a thick stack of documents from her wet coat pocket, shoving them into my hands. "Pick it," she commanded, breathing fast. I looked down. Top sheet. Asset transfer agreement. Below that, stock certificates, real estate deeds, a thick stack. Most of her assets. "These are all yours." She stared into my eyes, her voice shaking but crystal clear. "My money, my company, everything I own. All yours." "I don't want it." I tried to shove them back. "You have to take it," she screamed, interrupting me, pressing my hands so hard her nails dug into my skin. "Didn't you say I only care about money? That I'm cold? I don't want any of it now. It's all yours. I just want you." Her emotions completely collapsed. Tears mixed with rain poured from her red eyes. No longer the restrained moisture of before, but a reckless flood. "Caleb, I was wrong. I know I was wrong." She choked, her body trembling from agitation and cold. The dominating aura was gone, leaving only humble begging. "I was blind before. I didn't know what I had. Give me another chance. Just one, please." I looked at her. This woman, always high above, always calm, was now breaking down in front of me like a child, dignity completely gone. The stack of papers representing massive wealth felt scorching hot in my hands. My chest felt blocked, stuffed with wet cotton, heavy and suffocating. Did I hate her? Yes. But seeing her like this, beneath the hate, something else bubbled up, something undefined. Seeing I wasn't speaking, she cried harder, burying her face in my soaked chest, shoulders heaving. "Don't leave me, Caleb. I can't be without you." She whimpered incoherently. "Without you, I'll die. I really will." Rain kept drumming on the window. The room was filled only with her suppressed sobbing and our breathing. I stood stiffly. After a long time, I lifted my hand, hesitated, and finally placed it gently on her back. She shuddered violently, crying even harder, but hugged me tighter as if I were her only lifeline. I looked down at the woman, weeping messily in my arms. The hard wall in my heart seemed to crack. I sighed, my voice raspy. "Stop crying. You look ugly." Victoria lifted her head, looking at me through a haze of tears. She sniffled, asking cautiously, "Then do you still want me?" I looked into her eyes, eyes that once held only cold indifference, now filled to the brim with anxiety, fear, and a humble, desperate love. I was silent for a few seconds. Then I raised my hand and somewhat roughly wiped the rain and tears from her face with my thumb. "Change out those clothes first," I said, my tone hard. "If you get sick, I'm the one who has to take care of you." Victoria froze. Then in those red, swollen eyes, it was like fireworks suddenly exploded, blindingly bright. She nodded vigorously, breaking into a teary smile like a child who finally got their candy. "Yeah." She hugged me tight, burying her face in the crook of my neck, greedily inhaling my scent. "Caleb," she whispered, thick with nasal congestion. "Let's go home." Outside, the rain began to fade. I looked at the woman in my arms, this regained yet somehow stranger version of Victoria Sterling, and felt a mix of complicated emotions. "I didn't mean to drive you into becoming an obsessive psycho. I'm sorry." Story complete.